In recognition of National Foster Care Month, I wanted to take some time to answer some of the most frequently asked and most important questions around foster care. And what better place to start than to answer the question, what is foster care? And how do children enter the foster care system? I'm going to attempt to answer both of those questions in this first bonus episode of Cooking with Kibby. Welcome to the first of a series of bonus episodes of the Cooking with Kibby program. I am so glad that you are here. If you are just beginning your foster care journey or are in the process of investigating whether or not foster care is right for you and your family, I am so glad that you would even consider me to be a resource to you. For those of you who aren't regular listeners of the program, my name is Chef Kibby, and as a foster and adoptive parent myself, I've created this podcast to share with other trauma-informed parents how the kitchen can be a place to develop stronger and deeper connections with our children. If you want to find out more about me, you can visit my website, cookingwithkibby.com. Follow me on Instagram. Check me out on the stages on the Clubhouse app from time to time. I would love. And of course, be sure to hit that subscribe button because there will be more episodes on the way. As I mentioned at the top of the show, it is National Foster Care Month in May of 2021. And more people are coming to understand that I, Chef Kibby, am a foster parent and have been a foster parent for many years. And so are coming to me, sliding into my DMs on Instagram and asking me questions around foster care. I'm so blessed. I'm so honored that people would come to me with those questions because there are a lot of places to go. There are a lot of websites, there are a lot of influencers, there are a lot of agencies who make it their job to field these sort of questions. And not every agency and every website are going to answer these questions in exactly the same way because all of these agencies and all of these influencers are people. And people have different perspectives and different backgrounds and different experiences along the way. And so I'm here to give you my experiences, my take on foster care and the foster care system so that you can take it and do with it as you will. Hopefully, you'll find this information to be encouraging and insightful, and I'm going to try to present it to you in a way that is without any particular underlying motivation. I'm not trying to steer you in one direction or another. I just want to give you the facts as I know them so that you can be more well-informed as you decide what is best for your family. And I can think of no better place to begin this conversation than to ask the question, what is foster care? Foster care is defined by the National Foster Parent Association as the temporary placement of children and youth with families outside of their own home due to child abuse or neglect. The website ifoster.org says it just a little bit differently. They say, foster care is meant to be a temporary arrangement in which trained caregivers, including kinship or relative caregivers, provide for the care of a child when their biological parents are unable to care for them. So let's dig into the definition just a little bit so we can get a better picture for what it means. So first of all, foster care is a temporary placement. It is not meant to be something that is permanent. Now, temporary could mean a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and it's been known to last several years as well. But it is not permanent, which makes it different from adoption, which we will address in another episode. Foster care is a temporary placement. Children are brought into the foster care system and are placed with certain caregivers in order to give them comfort and to care for their everyday needs while a long-term plan of permanency is created and established for them. It is a temporary placement of children and youth. A child in foster care could be a teenager, could be a middle schooler, could be a child, it could be an infant. I have known foster care placements to be as young as 2 days old, being placed into the foster care system directly from the hospital. So when we talk about a child in the foster care system, it really does run the entire gamut of ages. Now, children or youth are placed into care outside of their home. There was a time when many of these children would go into group homes, but more and more we are seeing children being placed into the homes of licensed foster caregivers. And we'll talk a little bit about the licensing at another time, but know that the ideal situation, the ideal scenario for a child that is placed into the foster care system is to have them living in a home, not a group home, so to speak, but in a home with a foster family. In some cases, that foster family might actually be a member of their own family, and that's what we call a kinship placement, where they are placed with a relative or a next of kin, some sort of a blood relative to one or both members of the biological family. Children enter the foster care system due to child abuse or neglect. It is important for you to understand that a child does not enter the foster care system because they did something wrong. It is not because they were delinquent or because they were misbehaving or any fault of their own. It has everything to do with the potential or actual neglect or abuse that was taking place in their biological home. And with that, I want to transition into the next question, which is, how does a child or group of children enter the foster care system? The first step in the process is Child Protective Services. They're an agency usually affiliated with the county, and Child Protective Services, or CPS, they are made aware of a situation of neglect or abuse. Depending on where you live, you'll have a certain list of what are called mandated reporters. So these are people in certain positions that are required by law to make reports of potential alleged neglect or abuse. Those could include things like school officials, medical professionals, child care workers. Again, that list could vary county by county or state by state. I'm not exactly sure. But just know that there are certain people who are required to make such reports, although there are other people that can make reports as well, such as family members or neighbors or whoever is noticing something that doesn't seem right. Now, just because a report is made doesn't mean a child is going to be removed from the home. The next step of the process is an investigation, and that investigation is brought about in order to determine the next steps. Again, the outcome of the investigation may not be a separation. There are a lot of other results that could come about. There could be a recommendation of social services to be made available to the biological parent or parents, such as counseling or coaching or therapy. They could work with the biological family to get them connected with organizations that could provide them with services that could help them to deal with whatever issues or crisis they happen to be facing at that particular time. There could also be a period of observation in which Child Protective Services will check in with the family on a regular basis in order to ensure that the positive outcomes are being brought about and that the child is being kept safe. However, one possible outcome of these investigations is that CPS could assume temporary or protective custody of a child or a group of children. The CPS will work with local law enforcement authorities to have the child or sibling group removed from the home and then placed into care. And again, this isn't necessarily the first time the CPS was called. This could happen after a series of calls or a series of incidents. And different jurisdictions have different standards as to what would qualify as a pertinent threat to the child's safety in order to assume temporary or protective custody. I want to be clear here. Again, there's a lot of emotion that can get wrapped up into the child being removed from their home. There's a lot of people that will shout about how much neglect and abuse is taking place before a child is removed, and there will be others who say that children are being removed for reasons that they shouldn't. And so I don't want to fall on either side of that argument in this. But what I do want to say is that it is an imperfect system, because every system is built on people, and people are flawed, and people make mistakes. That's not to say that there isn't room for improvement, but people aren't always going to get it right. But I do want to say I have the utmost respect, and I pray for those who have to make this incredibly tough decision to remove a child from their parents. I mean, having the ability to balance the rights of a parent with the safety of a child is no easy task. And so my purpose here is not to sway you one way or another as to the validity of whether children should be removed and placed into care. I'm just here to show you and to tell you how it comes about. So once a child is removed from their home and brought into care, they are assigned a caseworker, and that caseworker acts as a liaison, if you will, between Child Protective Services and the bio family and the caregivers. At that point, CPS then contacts local agencies in the area to find a suitable placement home for that child or that sibling group. So, in a manner of speaking, I don't know exactly how this works, and it probably works a little bit different depending on where you live. A call or a message of some sort will go out to different licensing agencies in that area that service the county from where that placement is available. And then those different agencies will receive a brief background of the child or children going into care, including their ages, the county of jurisdiction, and maybe a few details about why they're in care, but usually not very many. And then the licensing agencies will check their database of available caregivers. And so they have lists of potential parents and families who have been licensed and are ready to take placements. They have home studies that show what they're available to take, and usually have given some sort of a preference as to maybe how many children they take, the ages that they might take, and other kind of preferences along the way. The agencies will check with their list of available caregivers to see if they might have a potential home for this placement. They will then contact those families to offer them the placement, to say, hello, Mr. or Miss X, there is a child placement that is available. Here are the details that we know. Are you willing to take this placement? At that point, that foster caregiver has the opportunity to say yes or no. And if they do say yes, then that agency will then report back to CPS, to Child Protective Services, and let them know that they have a potential match. Now, there could be more than one agency reporting back to CPS or to the caseworker that they have a potential match for the placement. And so at that point, Child Protective Services and the caseworker will sift through the applicants that have come in, and this happens in a matter of hours a lot of times, to determine which of these caregivers or families is going to be the best fit at that particular time. Once the placement home has been determined, then it's a matter of Protective Services for arranging for transportation and bringing the child or sibling group to that home, and then foster care begins. There is so much more to foster care than what I have just told you, and chances are, after you listening to this content, you might have had new questions come up in your mind. Well, I want you to know that I am here for you, and I want to give you answers, or at least refer you to others that may have answers to those questions. If you do have other things you'd like to know about foster care and about the foster care system, please hit the subscribe button, because I do plan on making more episodes, and feel free to slide into my DMs on Instagram or send me an email to podcast@cookingwithkibby.com. And let me know what it is you would like to know so that I can give you as much information as possible to encourage you and support you on your journey to caring for these young people. And until next time, I will see you in the kitchen. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, if you like what you hear, do me a favor and leave a review wherever it is you're listening to this podcast. It goes a long way to help me get my voice into more earbuds so that more folks will experience the joy of home cooking. Be sure to visit cookingwithkibbe.com to sign up for my mailing list, to read my latest blog post, watch my newest video, and to find other resources that'll help you and your family live a better life through the shared act of cooking and eating together. Again, that website is cookingwithkibbe.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Sorry, no Snapchat. Until next time, I'll see you in the kitchen. Cooking with Kibbe.